Hey y'all, hey, this is Anne Marie, the Anti-HR HR lady, and I just wanted to make a quick video and talk about the Lizzo situation and my thoughts about it. And again, this is not legal advice, it's not even legal analysis. It's just my thoughts based on my experience as an HR executive for 20 plus years, as well as my legal education. So, if you've watched the reports, and I'm not going to get into blow for blow of the claims, but Lizzo's been accused of basically creating a very hostile work environment. It also sounds like, and this is a civil action being brought by some of her former dancers. I think there are at least 3 people. And the allegations against her are against her, Lizzo, the artist, as well as her, the person who was in charge of the dancers. I can't remember her title. And there are all kinds of allegations. You can Google and get into like the details of it. But basically, she's being accused of creating a hostile work environment. There are allegations of some false imprisonment type situations where people felt like they were being coerced into doing things that they did not want to do. Claims that, people's were wrongfully terminated for, there's wrongful termination as part of it, and terminated for recording her and other various things. And, in my personal opinion, generally speaking, when I hear these kinds of allegations, I always assume that there's some truth to it, some conjecture, some lies, and somewhere in the middle is what actually happened. But there are always like extremes on both ends. Lizzo has already made a statement where she has categorically denied the claims against her, which she should do, especially if that's true. But in my personal opinion, and it's just my personal opinion, I believe something wrongful happened, but it's not clear to me that everything that is claimed is necessarily true. But when 3 people all bring these kinds of claims, and then other people also go on record to say that they also had very negative interactions with Lizzo, it indicates to me that it's probably some truthfulness to what is being alleged. However, that doesn't mean that she actually engaged in illegal behavior. And that's really at the heart of this civil action, is whether she engaged in behavior that is not just wrongful, but some of the claims are indicating that she may have done things that were also illegal. There are, claims about bananas and vaginas and so on. Go read, like I said, to see everything. I expect that this ultimately is going to be settled quickly and quietly, and you'll see something that says it's settled, but you'll never actually know what happened. And settling a case doesn't mean that you're guilty. Sometimes it really does make the most sense. I help people get payments from employers all the time that never even go to court. But obviously, when someone pays, it's because they have some type of exposure. It even might be small, it might be medium, it might be large, but it becomes easier to just make it go away than to keep having the allegations made, and all, especially when these things are in the public sphere. More than likely, I expect that it will get settled and then quietly go away, but people are going to remember this. I also see people getting on the internet and sharing stories of their own about Lizzo. There's a girl who made a video, accusing Lizzo of stealing her boyfriend from her, or basically saying her boyfriend left her for Lizzo. I don't want to put words in her mouth. She didn't say she stole him. She said her boyfriend left her for Lizzo, and implying that Lizzo was not nice and friendly to her when she interacted with her. I consider stuff like that, like, it doesn't even matter to me, right? Now's a perfect time for anyone who ever had any issue with Lizzo, whether true, real, false, in their own mind, based on something she did wrong or didn't do wrong. Everybody's going to come out the woodwork now because it's a feeding frenzy, and it's kind of embarrassing to watch some of that. I found watching that video a bit embarrassing because I was like, why are you telling us this now? But that's just my personal take on it. Why? Because now's a good time to tell. She said she did it because she felt people would believe her now. But, if it's true, the truth stands on its own. You could have told any time, but this is the time she chose to tell it. So personally, I didn't give that a lot of credence, just my personal thing, because for me, it felt very much like piling on and kicking somebody when they're already down. But that doesn't mean she's innocent or guilty. And really, in a civil matter, it's not about innocence or guilt. It's about what the preponderance of the evidence is, right? And whether the person basically has more than likely not. It's not even about reasonable doubt, because that's only in criminal actions. It's about the preponderance of the evidence and whether the person more likely than not, based on the evidence, is responsible for what they're being accused of. And like I said, I think it's going to go away in a settlement anyway. So this is really about public opinion, right? What it's going to come down to is how you already felt about Lizzo. If you were a fan, you're probably going to be supportive of her. If you were not a fan, you're going to not support her. If you were kind of in the middle but leaning against, then you're going to be like, she's a horrible person now and you don't like her, right? It's really going to come down to that. I've watched interviews with her. I've made my own, judgments before this. So my personal opinion is I believe that she probably did create a hostile work environment, but I don't necessarily think it was malicious. And I'm going to explain what I mean. Hollywood is, first of all, the entertainment business is a business, but people don't always think of it in that way. But discrimination laws apply as much to that business as it does to any other business. So for the people who think, oh, well, if you go into the entertainment business, you should expect people to do crazy things. No, they're subject to the same discrimination laws as every other employer based on state or federal, right? That's the first thing. But in many cases, people who go into it don't think about it that way and don't realize it. And a lot of these people, as is Lizzo, are younger people who are in this business because of talent they have, not because of knowledge they have. So if they're not surrounded by people who school them from very beginning about what the rules of the road are in terms of what's legal and not legal when you go on the road and you're on tour and whatever, people don't necessarily think about that. The other thing is, and this is from my personal experience as being someone who was young and in charge of other people, you often don't think of the people who work for you initially in the beginning as people you're supervising or people who you're the boss of. A lot of times you try to befriend people early on in your career. And she asked people to go hang out with her. You don't realize what the power differential always is between you and the people who are below you. It's as you get more mature that you realize that there's a line that has to be drawn, right? And that you make your friendships outside of work. You do not make the people who work for you your friends, because there are times when you may have to lay down the law and set boundaries and institute rules and enforce rules in ways that may make people upset with you, right or wrong. And I think there's some of that at play in this situation, in addition to her having engaged in textbook, hostile work environment. But as I explain to people all the time, a hostile work environment is not in and of itself illegal. So just because somebody treated you badly at work doesn't mean it's illegal. It really gets down to the nature of the behavior. However, this is not a criminal matter. This is a civil matter. And so she may still be liable in the opinion of a jury for certain things, even though they're not necessarily illegal. And then you get into jurisdictional questions and stuff like that I'm not even going to talk about, because some of these things happen outside the United States and so on. That's why I believe it's all going to get settled, right? But it's going to impact her reputation all the same. And it's probably going to change the way she relates to people that work for her going forward. And that's not necessarily a bad thing either. Because like I said, a lot of times when you're younger, you think all those people are your friends, right? You're with them for, on the road, you're traveling around the world, you're all together. You think you're all a family. You think you're friends. They're not your friends. They're your employees. You need friends, bring them with you. The people who work for you and whose salaries you pay are your employees, whether they are independent contractors or otherwise, and you have to deal with them as such. You want to go out and watch sex shows? Don't take your employees with you. And definitely don't imply that their jobs might be in danger if they don't come. And instruct the people who work for you and manage people of the same. You have to have a line, you have to have boundaries. And it sounds like a situation where there was neither. And it resulted in a lot of problems on both sides. And now those problems are going to be resolved either in the courtroom or through a big hefty payment of some kind to several people and reputational damage, regardless of whether all of the allegations, some of the allegations are true or not. So for me, this is kind of an object lesson in what or what not to do as a manager and as well as a supervisor, right? Because how you manage people matters. And I think a lot of times we as Black women especially, you go into these environments, you're young, you want to be liked, you want to be friends, you think you're family, you're not. And the people, they might look like you, but they'll sue you too, right or wrong, if you overstep or you even do something that might look like you overstepped, right? Because there's money. This is about money as well, right? And that's just the reality. So this is not me about taking a position about whether I think she's right, she's wrong, she did it, she didn't do it. I think there's likely some things that are true in the allegations, some things that are not true, some things that are exaggerated, and so on. But it doesn't matter because her reputation has taken a hit. This is going to be something that's always going to be part of the narrative about her, whether it's true or not. And she's going to probably have to pay to make these people go away and stop talking about this, right? And that's really what it's about. And I hope that she learns from this that, one, you need to treat people with respect. You need to treat people fairly and equally in the workplace across the board. And also, your employees are your employees and your friends are your friends. Don't mix those two things up ever. And that's the lesson that I hope a lot of people take away from this, especially those of you who may be young and just going into management, especially those of us who are people of color and Black women specifically, managing other people of color or Black people and Black women specifically. Even though they look like you behave in a professional manner when you're managing people, and you do not treat them like your friends. They're not your friends. They're your employees. Have your friendships outside of work, at work. Be professional. You want to go to happy hour after work? You're still the manager at happy hour. So you can't be up there drunk and dancing on top of the tables and telling everybody to get up there with you. You always have to remember who you are, where you are, what your role is, and what your position is. And be careful about how you engage people at work, outside of work, especially when you're the person with authority. You have to be responsible and accountable for the decisions that you make and how you manage and treat people, even when you think y'all are being friendly and hanging out and so on. There are certain lines that just can never be crossed. And I think inviting your employees to go to a sex show with you in Amsterdam is out of order as a manager. Now, I don't have no problem with you going to the sex show. Do your thing, have a good time. But I don't think it was smart to ask her dancers to go, or even forget the part about whether or not they felt they were coerced or not. I don't think that she should have asked people that work for her to go to something like that with her. That's just how I feel. If you need friends, bring them on the road with you. But always understand that when you pay people's salaries, your relationship with them is different than if you didn't, and if they're just your friends, right? And that's why you probably see certain celebrities that travel with their friends and bring their family and stuff like that, because you got to understand that there's a line and you need to be very careful about not stepping over that line. I hope these thoughts were helpful. Share your thoughts in the comments. This is Anne Marie, the Anti-HR HR lady. Remember, HR is not your enemy, but they're definitely not your friend. But I am. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.